demystifying and then remystifying magic again. So big applause for my mentor, Philip Horvarth.
All right, I'm going to do my best to live up to that introduction. So thank you very much. Thanks for all coming here. There's about 3 seats right up here if someone still wants them, and there's some room if you want to come in. So it's exciting to be in this room with you. It's very tight, so I'll try and do my best to keep you entertained for the next hour and not, feel that lack of oxygen that makes you go this, especially after lunch. So Mariana already talked about it. My purpose is to demystify and remystify. I've been studying magic for a long time. I'm not going to take this too deeply now, since we just had such a beautiful breathing moment. But let's take just a second to find our feet. And very simple, not much you have to do. Kind of take a look around the room, right, and see what you see. And kind of in your head, name the things you see. Like I see a bottle here, and a candle, and a chair, and people, right? But you'll see there's no saber-toothed tigers, nothing coming at you. So you can allow yourself to close your eyes for just a second again and let the outside world go away for a moment. Right? And as we close our eyes and the outside world goes away, we hear much more acutely. Right? You hear the sound of my voice right now, but you also probably hear some shuffling around the room, some other things. But you'll see there's no alarms, nobody calling your name, nobody yelling, and you can allow yourself to relax even more. And let's take another deep breath in together, and a long breath out. One more time, deep in, and a long breath out. One more time, since it was so much fun, deep breath in, and a long breath out. And as you continue to breathe or relaxed, notice what you're smelling. You might not be smelling much right now. You might be smelling some incense, maybe yourself, maybe the person next to you. But no smoke, nothing you need to pay attention to. And you can allow yourself to relax even more. And our smell is connected to our taste. So take a moment to taste what's in your mouth. Again, maybe not much, maybe some food, some pad thai, maybe some cigarettes or coffee. Right? But no poison, nothing you need to spit out or pay attention to right now. And you can allow yourself to relax even more. Find your feet or your butt on the ground, fully supported, and noticing how you're fully supported. And take a moment to move your attention from your feet up to your ankles and knees, to your thighs, to your bum in the chair, to your torso, left arm, right arm, back up to the shoulders and neck. We tend to hold a lot of tension there. If you feel tension, simply allow it to release. It'll do its own thing. So you keep moving up to your face, letting it drop to the top of your head. And now see if you can move it up about 1 meter above yourself. Seeing yourself sit there in a chair. Below you is a human. Maybe go back for a second to this morning when you woke up in bed, either your own bed or someone else's bed, hotel bed, a stranger's bed, wherever you might have woken up, and kind of trace your steps all the way into this room, right here, right now, into this very moment, present to this situation. For the next hour, you can allow yourself to simply relax and take in some of the things we'll be doing, knowing it's all going to serve you in your path forward. Because all the decisions, every single thing you've ever decided, brought you right here. This is your reality. You created this moment of every choice you ever made. Whether you did your homework or didn't do your homework, or yelled at someone or didn't, or dated someone or didn't, or went to this school or that school. All the different people you met, all the different decisions you made brought you here, right now, into this room. With that, take another deep breath in. And one last breath out. Well, hopefully not the last. And then come back when you're ready into the room. Right here, right now. So I've already given away the fact that this is your creation. Right? Everything you've ever done in your life, everything you've ever chosen to do brought you here. And I started my magic path Oh yeah, before I go there, a couple of things up front. As far as I'm concerned, we're all on Team Human. Right? I mean, there's a 50-50 chance humanity will survive by 2050, and we have a lot of work to do. And as far as I'm concerned, whether it's on your business card or what you do for a living, I think we're all on Team Human no matter what. Right? And we're all learning how to do this still. Right? We're in a new world right now where everything is in transformation. We're in a massive liminal space between what used to be and isn't anymore, and what will be and isn't yet. Right? And we're all still learning how to cope with this new world, how to build new systems for it, how to create the systems that are now relevant for our new awareness. And that's why I think you're so important, right? Because you've chosen the magical path. You've chosen to actually go down the deep, dark rabbit holes and be willing to look at some of the demons we find there, right? And I just talked to my friend earlier. I lived in California for a long time, and there's a lot of spiritual people there, but there's a lot of like, hey man, it's all good, And it's not all good. It's all like a lot of spiritual bypassing that happens in that world. So I have deep respect for you who are actually willing to look at the creepy crawlers and look at the shadows and look at the shit that comes up when you dig deep, right? Because there's all kinds of shit you find in those treasures, in those wrecks, and that's where the treasures are as well. But sometimes you have to go past the sharks and past the sea monsters to get there. So kudos to all of you starting there. And this is your show today. I'm going to have a couple of things prepared for you for the next hour to connect you to your own magicianship and your magicianhood and your practice. Hopefully that'll work for you. If you have questions, I'll be around afterwards and for the rest of the conference. Happy to share all the slides too. So just to, this is for you. So I'm doing my best to serve you here. And this is where I started, as a little one. You can see the picture slightly out of focus. That's because I was very, very fast. In German, they said Zappel-Philipp or Fidgety Philipp, right? Today, they would probably say ADHD or some neurodiversity, right? Fortunately, they didn't have that diagnostic back then, so there's no pills that they prescribed for that. And instead, my dad handed me a bunch of yoga tapes and yoga meditation stuff and said, here, you need to learn to chill the fuck out. Right, and so I learned how to stare at a candle for half an hour, and be like, la 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 la, la 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 la, right, and doing this, right, and so this is where I started my journey when I was about 12, and I got into autogenes training and meditation and yoga, and then of course all this occult stuff and all the different systems that are out there, and I've been spending the last 30 years kind of traveling around the world, going, okay, what stories do you got here? Right? How do you describe fire, water, or earth? Right? Because at some point, as some of you might have noticed, it's always the same shit. Right? It's like different stories on the surface. The exoterics are very different in the different cultures, but underneath it is some very common patterns that we keep finding. Like 5 fingers, 10 fingers, right? So make rules of 5 and 10, right? Things like that. Seems to be also how our brain is structured and wired. Right? So there's all kinds of different systems, and in the end, the map is not the territory. Right? These are all just maps, right? All these magical systems, and forgive me if I'm poo-pooing on anybody's specific system, right? They're all awesome, everybody has their place, and depends on who you are, what really works for you, right? And these are all maps, right? Your experience, right? Your joy, your sorrow, your grief, your orgasm, your, laughter, that's the real shit, right? That's where it really comes down to. It's your life, right? And how you're living it here. And so magic, right? What's magic all about in this context, right? Magic, if you think about it, there's a beautiful book by Dean Radin called Real Magic. For those of you interested in the academics of it, he looked at 30 years of parapsychology. And he found that, indeed, we have the capacity to influence matter with our will. And we can talk to we can see things in different places and times, and we can actually even talk to entities that don't seem to be alive in the physical body. Right? And parapsychology, actually a lot of the psychology rituals and scientific protocols we have today, for example, triple-blind studies, actually came from parapsychology, right? Because nobody believed them, right? So they had to really go and make these very, very complicated, elaborate protocols for their studies to make sure that people were like, okay, there seems to be something there, right? And there seems to be something there, right? These things seem to be somewhat working. Now, inside of that, Crowley said, magic is a science and art of changing, creating change to occur in conformity with will. Right? So that first aspect is the one I've been focusing on. I've had some experiences with remote viewing, and I've done some, crazy talking to entities at some point. But my focus has really been that first part of how do I use my will, my attention, my whole system to create change in the world. Right? And how do I make that happen? And in that, if you think about, do what you will is the whole of the law, love is the law, love and the will. So what it's actually already telling you is do what you will, right? It's the whole of the law. It's actually creating liberated humans, right? Because we think about in a time when most people were feudal slaves, right? We started to say, what are the different stages of adult development? Right? And if you look at Robert Kegan's work, American psychologist, highly recommend him. He talks about these different stages of human development, right? From impulsive, I want this now, like a lot of the junkies in my neighborhood in Berlin here, right? When you reduce to that thing of, I just need this thing right now, right? You're in an impulsive kind of part. There's the imperial part, which we find in, especially toxic narcissists, right? Who are all about me, and my thing has to happen, and I'm going to dominate everybody around me to make that happen. And then you have a lot of socialized people. 65% of humanity or adult are actually on the socialized stage or below, meaning that they're still waiting for someone outside of them to validate them and make them okay, right? Some boss, some teacher, some god, some politician, somebody outside of them. And this is where I think magic comes in to help you move from socialized to self-offering. Right? And a lot of the grimly pictures were there to shy away the people that are too timid to actually go do the work, right? And so you hide plain sight in pictures of demons, and people go, oh, demon, I can't look at this. Well, then you can't have that wisdom either. So you have to get past that socialized phase. Well, one experiment I did once when my ex-wife and I divorced, she was very into the Christianity thing, so I took a crucifix that she had and I turned it upside down. And I just had it in the room for upside down crucifix for a couple of days, right? And it was just like, at first I'm like, waiting for like some lightning to strike me and damn me to hell, right? But it didn't happen. And it was just like, it's just a symbol. Just like all these other symbols, right? And magic uses a lot of these symbols to decondition you out of this stuff, right? When Crowley talks about sacrificing babies, he's talking about whacking off, right? And it's sort of code-and-hidden thing, right? But he's talking about spilling a seed, right? And for the Victorian society, he said, oh, we are sacrificing babies. And I went, woo, dark magic, right? So, but it's about becoming self-offering, meaning that it's about your values and not acting because you have to do it or because someone says you should do it or because it's the right thing to do it, but because you believe it's the right thing to do it. And then getting into self-transformation, really actively changing yourself, actively working on yourself, which I think pretty much all of you are doing here, right? As magicians, you're actively working on who you want to become. Right? There's a beautiful book by Mr. Hyatt on becoming a psychopath's Bible, on becoming a radical individual, right? On becoming an individual. And this is for me what magic is really about, owning your individuality and your capacity to create here. Right? Because we're all creators. Every one of us is creating reality at all times, but most people do it unconsciously. And when you do it unconsciously, it's like when all your colors mix, what do? You get brown. Right? They create shit for themselves all the time. Right? Shit magic. So most people practice all the time because they're unconscious of their creation. Right? And magic is in many ways a pathway to becoming conscious of your creation in this world. And so, magic is ultimately simple. I think it's always those 4 steps: intention, imagination, ritual, and will. Right? Why are you even doing magic? Right? What's the intention here? Is there a need you're trying to fulfill? Is there something that somebody else's need you're trying to fulfill? Right? What's your intention behind it? And then you have to imagine it. Be like, okay, cool. What is it going to look like when it's done? Right? If I don't know what I'm aiming for, how could I possibly get there? Right? So I have to actually imagine it. Right? When we do some ritual, where we create some state of neuroplasticity to actually imprint this new idea into your system, so you become that, right? And then the last part is will, which means you're going to get to show up, right? Because the universe says, great, you want these things? Awesome, you can have all of it. Let me help you become the person you need to be in order to have it. And so it's going to send you all kinds of holy shit, right? All kinds of stuff that are going to be really difficult and hard and maybe exactly the opposite of what you were hoping for, so you can transcend it. Right? And that's where you need to have that will and have to show up again and again and again and again and again. Right? Because it's easy to go make a magic ritual and be like, I'm going to be abundant and money is coming to me. And then all day long you're like, oh, I'm stupid, I'm shitty, I don't know things, I shouldn't even be here, who am I to deserve this, I don't deserve this. Right? And so all day long you're doing exactly the opposite, and then you wonder that it's not coming to you. Right? So you have to actually maintain that state, maintain the energy of who you want to become, and continue to be and incorporate who you want to become. Because if you're continuously doing that, then more likely things are actually going to come to you that fit that. Right? So it's a constant work of will, a constant world of stepping up. And in the end, there's only one corner in the universe where you can actually affect something, and that's your own self anyway. Right? I want to change the world, I want to make it better. I wish every single child on this planet was born with, hello, welcome, we can't wait to find out who you are. We're going to have all the support for you to become you. Right? I look forward to that world. I'm working towards that every day. It's probably not going to happen in my lifetime, right? But I know at least what I'm doing every day. Right? And in the end, it's about this alchemical laboratory that is you. Right? The first rule of alchemy, anybody know? Mention it? Whatever the alchemist does to the matter, he or she has to do to herself. Right? And that's like, okay, burning, dissolving, chopping up, right? Putting it back together, letting it ferment, right? Distilling it, putting it back together yet again, right? But that's what we do with ourselves, right? We burn our frustrations, right? If you have desire, for example, if you go into celibacy for a moment, what you're doing is you're burning your desire to go have sex, right? Or when you do a fasting thing, right? You're burning your hunger, you're burning through that, and you're actually taking control of your own system. Right? Or when you're dissolving and you're allowing yourself to trust and go somewhere where angels fear to tread, right? And you have to be willing to dissolve who you thought you were in order to go there, right? And then you chop things up and actually analyze what's going on for you and really become rational about the things that are happening in your life, right? Putting them back together, letting it sit there for a moment maybe to ferment and fester, to then distill ultimately wisdom from it, right? To take material experience, to that lead of every day, and turn it into beauty, into wisdom, into something higher. Right? And so I like to think of it as a sort of a human operating system, right? Because there's opus, which is your creation, your work. Right? Some of you might know in classical music they talk about opus so-and-so, number so-and-so, right? It's their work. It's your opus. It's how you operate to create that. It's your system underneath it. Right? And as a human, we're all kind of little systems. Right? Stuff goes in, right? Stuff goes on, stuff comes out. I'm sorry, by the way, this is so hard to see. Should not have taken the light gray route. But anyhow, so there's a human in the middle of that, and it goes input, process, output, right? Stuff goes in, stuff goes on, stuff comes out. What happens, you eat, you digest, and you take a crap, right? On a very basic level already, right? But it also happens with emotions, with good thoughts, with information, with other people's art, right? You're taking things in, and there's stuff going on, and you're putting things out. Like right now I'm speaking, so I'm putting things out, right? So that's also happening. And hopefully this is going to be, oh shit, all right. Sorry about that. Mariana already mentioned sort of the human operating system, right, and the different circuits, right? And I too kind of operate by that model. If I think about what am I made up of, right, I seem to have a physical body, right? I seem to have emotions. I seem to feel things or like certain things or not like certain things or feel pulled towards certain things and not so much to other things, right? Feel good, feel bad, right? I have thought. Right, I have things in my head, right? I think, therefore I am. Right, it's a bunch of white men thought that was the apex of humanity. I think, therefore I am, right? And body and emotions are for women and children. They obviously forgot this is a holarchy, not a hierarchy, right? We all have those circuits still. Right? We have relationships in life, right? Where we make choices with each other and agreements with each other. We have a voice, right? And not just a real voice I'm speaking with right now, but your individuality. Right? Think about it, nobody's ever been you. You're the very, very first version of you. Right? So next time you put yourself down and say, I'm not good enough, ask compared to what? Right? Because you're the first. You're the very, very first version of you. Nobody's ever had that confluence of education, genetics, epigenetics, everything, situations that happened for you. Right? Nobody's ever had that. You're unique. Right? And this is important that you bring your uniqueness, your voice to the table. Right? And then we have the capacity for vision, which we evolved to avoid danger. Right? It's like, oh, yesterday there was a saber-toothed tiger there. There might be one tomorrow. Right? And we evolved that capacity to anticipate the future by imagining it. Right? But mostly we do it to worry. Right? And worrying, the English word worry actually comes from German würgen, which means to choke. Right? So when you're worrying, you're actually choking yourself. Because what's not happening is that there's no blood here, because the blood is in your arms and legs to fight or flight. Right? And so it doesn't make for good thinking when you're stressed. Right? So we have this imagination, though, and we can also imagine positive things. So we can also pull in visions from the future. Right? And we have that sense of ourselves as creators. We all have the capacity to create here. Right? And you're all doing it. And obviously, you're magicians, right? You're here. And these are all also connected to different needs. Right? Many of you might have heard of Maslow and the whole idea of different needs. There's been discussion of whether it's a pyramid or not a pyramid or upside down, or if it's more important these needs or those needs. They're all needs. They're real. Right? Everybody has needs, and they're independent of your social, cultural conditioning. Right? We all have physiological needs. We all need food, water, hydrate to create, right? We all need food, water, those different things. We all need sleep, we all need touch, right? We all need to feel safe, right? We all need to have moments when we're okay, simply feeling good and allowing ourselves those moments, right? We all need moments of self-esteem, right? Where I know that I did this and not someone else, and I can feel good about my contribution to the world, right? And I can feel proud of what I created here. We want to have those moments of self-esteem. We have social needs, right? We want to be connected to people because really the coolest high I know, and I've tried a few, but the very, very best high I know is creating value for someone else. Right? If you create value for someone else and you see their life being better than it is because of you, man, that's awesome, right? That's a really amazing high. So we have that need to be social and connected to people. We want to, within that, do ourselves, right? Self-actualize. And then when Maslow, towards the end of his life, he realized, oh, there's something higher than self-actualization, right? Because self-actualization is still me, ego show, right? Look at me expressing myself. But then, what do you put it in service to, right? Something higher, right? Something beyond yourself. And ultimately, that desire for meaning that we all have. Right? And meaning comes from German meinen. It means to make mine, simply. Right? To make your life your own, not someone else's, not living someone else's story. In the previous session, my friend Martin talked about money, and he had the sovereign there. Right? The idea of a sovereign citizen. Right? We're not cattle. Right? We technically all have the capacity to be sovereign, but in our legal system, pretty much the Queen of England is sovereign and a couple of other people, but that's about it. Right? And this is part of our new world too, is that we get to claim and own our sovereignty here. So that said, ultimately this is about creation, right? And the idea of creating in reality. And when you think about creation, right, every force has a counterforce in physics. And so does creation. There's a beautiful book by Stephen Pressfield called The War of Art, where he talks about this concept of resistance, right? When we have that calling of, oh, you could create this in the world. And then comes the, oh, but I'm not good enough, or I don't know enough, or I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough time, or I could do this tomorrow, right? And those different little things that come in that resist our capacity to create. Right? And so for me, in a way, the very first job of a magician is to eliminate the resistance, right? To learn how to optimize my system so that creation can flow through me, right? So that I can go and program my own operating system. Sorry, can you guys read this at all? Just shitty, right? All right, I'll give you the slides afterwards, but I'll just talk through it. But the idea that when we actually program and align our whole operating system towards creation, right? We start with intention, right? I want to create something. What do I want to create in the world? Then I begin to imagine it, of what would it look like if it was actually real, and who would I be, right? Then I go into actually creating a ritual where I bring my creativity in to design the ritual, to make it my own, right? And then I get to show up. And I get to have that courage, right? Because until here, it's still blah, blah, right? Until I'm really, truly committed to my solution. I'm really committed behind it. That's why we swear oaths to demons, right? It's an actual agreement that we're making here, right? So that we have the strength to then focus our mind, our emotions, and our body on making it happen, right? And actually embodying that and becoming that and bringing that into physical reality. And, oh God. Yeah. For me, sorry about the really shitty small lines. Next time I'll have better contrast slides. When I teach leadership in the corporate world, we usually say it's a process of awareness, responsibility, ownership, and identity, actions, and outcomes. Right? And it starts with awareness, responsibility, ownership. Right? Looking at, okay, what am I aware of in my body, in my emotions, in my thoughts, in my relationships? Right? What am I aware of in my life? And how can I expand my awareness? How can I have more perspective on it? How can I learn new things about it? And then show up and take responsibility for the things I become aware of, right? So that I'm ultimately in full ownership of my life, right? That's the ideal here, as a sovereign, right? To be in ownership of your life. And when I'm that, then I can determine what identity do I want to take on. Who do I want to be? And then act accordingly so I can create the outcomes I want to create. Right? But the outcomes that I want to create in the world start with my identity. If I think that I'm, not worthy piece of shit who doesn't deserve love, I'm probably not going to find a beautiful relationship, as much as my magic might, be about that, right? But if I'm walking around not believing in it, how is it going to happen, right? Or if I think I should have a lot of money, but I also think that money stinks and money is evil, I'm going to find ways to sabotage myself from getting a lot of money because money stinks and money is evil and I don't want to have anything to do with it. Right? And so the idea is to really align everything towards the creation that you want to have in your life. Right? And so, who are you imagining yourself to be? We're going to actually go into a little bit more practical instead of me blah-blahing at you. So take a moment and think about what is it that you would like to create. Right? You all have an interest in magic. You're here for a reason. Right? There might be something that you want to create in the world. And who would you like to create yourself as? Have you got something to focus on? Yeah? Good. Then we'll actually go through that. And we'll start with, we're going to go through our different circuits together. You're going to need a little bit of room around you, so just not too much. We're going to do something crazy, I promise. It's going to be very simple physical exercise, but just to get our physical intelligence into the room. All right, so I want you to get up for a moment. And again, not much you need to do. Maybe just make sure you have your hands empty and you have a little bit of space around you. And maybe I'll go up there. This might be easier to see. Whee, up on stage. Whee. All right. So we're going to do a simple thing. It comes from martial arts. And it's all about actually activating and getting blood flow going into your whole system. So we have a very tight room. We're going to do this really fast. It's not going to take very long, no worries. But a couple of things. And start with, in yoga, we talk about bhavana, which is sort of your projection or your idea, right? Your what you want to create. And then the idea in some ways is when you do yoga, you kind of massage that into your system. So we'll do a bit of the same thing, right? So connect to that person that you want to become, right? Maybe even stand a little taller because probably they're really tall and strong in their position, right? I'm going to start by clacking our teeth, just like this. Super simple, right? Okay, cool. Then we do the next one, and we're going to rub around our eyes, just to make little tiny circles. The temples here feels really good. And around. Just make little circles around your eyes. And as you're doing it, maybe thank your eyes for seeing, for being in this world, having the ability to see all these beautiful things around you. And feel as the blood starts going to your eyes. All right, cool. Third step, we're going to wash our face. Hopefully you have clean hands and wash them after your bathroom. What you want to do is essentially wash your face. It's a little hard with a microphone in your hand, in your face, but essentially wash your face. Just bring blood flow to the face. All those beautiful muscles. Awesome. Cool. And next, I'm going to do some claws. Right? And it's easier with hair like mine, but hopefully you can do it too. And what we're going to do is scrape the top of our skull. Ooh, yum. Good place to massage. After a hard day of work, always nice to do. There's a lot of tension collecting in your scalp. Great. You guys are doing awesome. Wonderful. All right. Now we're going to bring some blood into our ears. I'm going to start at the bottom, move up. Bring some blood in there. Even pull on your ears a little bit. They're not going to stand out like mine afterwards, don't worry. Great. Beautiful. Awesome. And now we're going to find those two spots right behind where the skull ends here and push in there. And tiny little circles there too. It's a great place if you have a stuffed nose. That actually helps clean the sinuses. Some of you might notice how it's doing that. Great, awesome. And now we're going to do the middle point, right in the middle there. Also give that some love. Awesomeness. Now we're going to go to the throat, and as if we were swallowing, bring that blood down here, coming down from your head into the body, into the shoulders. Awesome. Great job. Cool. Check it out a little bit. And then we're going to go to the left shoulder, and just give the left shoulder some love, and see if it's front, back, wherever it might need it in your world. Just move it around a little bit, see where there's tension, where it might need a little touch. Great. Same thing on the other shoulder. Awesome. All right, you probably feel a little warmth already coming in. Shake them out for a moment. And then go to our ribs. Just give our ribs a little love, holding us all together, all the organs that are inside there, keeping it all tight and compact and protected. Thank you, ribs, for doing that good job. All right, now belly, yum yum, hopefully we had lunch. Delicious beers, I drank too many of them, I think, in my life. Good. All right, and now we're gonna make fists and do this thing in our back, and just do some circles here. Depending on how flexible you are, I can make the circles bigger or smaller, or go down into those ass muscles a little bit, like, oh yeah. After sitting a lot, that helps. All right, good job. And couple more down here, below the belly button. It's a funny little tidbit. In German, the pubic bone is called shame bone. Should give you an indication about how we feel about this part of our body. Germans, crazy. All right, cool. Two more. What we want to do is take our hands, and as we go down, go in the back of your legs, and as you go up, go in the front. So like kind of move down here and move up like this. Down, up like this. Down in the back, up in the front, in the back, up in the front. All right, good job. And feel your feet. Since we have shoes on, we're not going to massage our feet. Normally I would go there, but just kind of maybe go back and forth a little bit, left and right. Just feel the bottoms of your feet. Awesome. All right, two more. One is, and we'll see how this works, see if you not hit someone, but kind of move to the back, to the left, and to the right. And just allow yourself to swing a little bit. All right? And this is giving you, how they do twists in yoga. They do that for a reason. Because if you think about your spine, it's a big data autobahn. Right? There's electrical signals going up and down your spine all day long. And the more flexible you keep your spine, the clearer those pathways are. Right? Awesome, good job. One last one. We'll see if that works in here. Very simple. You're going to do like this. And now touch your left knee with your right elbow. And then the other way around. And really think about that twist again. Trying to twist your shoulders, keeping your spine straight as you do that. Awesome. Well, you guys are doing great. Confined room action here. All right. Awesome. Very good job. Let's take a moment to just notice how your body feels right now. Right? From how it felt before we started this to how it feels now. Right? There's blood flow everywhere. Suddenly it's much more present, right? Much more present in our intelligence, right? If we're physically present. And we can be present with ourselves, we can feel our feet on the ground. And actually just noticing your feet on the ground is an old ancient thing that tells your brain, not dead yet, right? Like some of you might see that old Monty Python's movie where they're carrying away the dead people and they're like, I'm not dead yet, I'm not dead yet. Right? And so when you feel your feet on the ground, it tells your brain, I'm not dead yet, oh awesome, right? More life. And we don't live here by ourselves. So we're going to do one little exercise. It's going to be a little freaky for some of you. No worries, it's going to be over very quickly. But I want you to find someone who's conveniently located next to you, right next to you probably, and stand in front of them. And then look at their feet. Start by looking at their feet of the person in front of you. I think you need someone? Huh? All right. So yeah, just look at their feet, right? And here just shoes, right? Probably shoes, most of you have shoes on. But imagine those feet there, they were once little kids' feet, right? Little tiny feet, and they're just starting to learn how to run, crawl around, right? Run around, all excited, right? You think about a 3-year-old who is running around the room, super excited, full of life, right? And so now go up and go look at their knees for a second. Right, the person in front of you, they were once like 5, 6, 7 years old too. First day of school, big day, maybe a little scary. Maybe all the other kids were stupid, or maybe they're really nice. Who knows, right? But they were little kids too once. And if you look at their hips now, right, imagine they were teenagers once too. Little 14, 15-year-olds, totally awkward, right, figuring out emotions and what that even means, and if you're okay or not okay, right, all that stuff. If you go up and look at their heart, right, here's this young person leaving home for the first time, maybe, right, having their own place where they're living, right, and kind of being out in this big world full of new, exciting adventures, right? And so now go move and actually go look in the eye. And try to do that in silence. I know people want to laugh or giggle or say things, right, because it's a little weird to just look someone in the eye. And just looking at this human being. Here's someone with struggles, with worries, with problems, like everybody else, who's every day showing up to do their very, very best, just to be here, right? Has all kinds of things to solve, things to figure out, right? Have their own pains and their own moments of despair, and their own moments when they feel really great about themselves. Right? So if your eyes send them a little, go, you got this, good job. Right? Just with your eyes and give that to that person. Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you so much for playing. You're welcome to sit back down for a moment. No, you guys did really great. You know, I do that looking in the eye exercise with people in corporate in particular, and there's so much laughing and giggling and talking, right? Yeah, and as you see, it's still releasing itself, right? It's like, oh my God, I had to look someone in the eye. That was freaky, right? It should be such a simple thing, right? I mean, looking someone in the eye, right? Yeah, exciting, right? Yeah, I know. Right? It's a weird thing, right, when we do that. And it should be so simple, right? But people consider it a sign of aggression in some places. Right? In some cultures, it's actually not even allowed. You just like do this all the time, right? You're not even allowed to look someone in the eye. But why? Right? They say it's a gateway to the soul. Right? It's a gateway where you can see someone. And a little trick I learned from a salesperson once, if you look person in the right eye, and you can test that later again, if you look in the right eye, you see their soul. If you look in the left eye, you see the personality. Right? And so as a good salesperson, you want to actually keep skipping back and forth between the two eyes. Right? And this way, both their soul aspect and their personality, their ego is taken care of. But for some of you, this might have been stressful. Right? And in all likelihood, you went through all four. I'm going to go back down here. I think it's more fun. All four of these stages. Right? You might have heard of a flight and fight response, but it's actually 4 stages. The first one is freeze. It's the most oldest one. It's a reptilian response. Right? It's the one that says, like the chameleon says, I'm going to not move. I hope they don't see me. Right? But it's when you ignore that email in your inbox, and you're like, oh, I'm going to get to it later. I'm going to get to it later. I'm going to get to it later. Right? People talk about procrastination a lot. Procrastination is actually a stress response. Right? There's also waiting for the right moment, which is a different story. But it's also this like incapacity to move, right? When you're frozen. Right? And so there's that first response. Right? And then, of course, once you get out of that and you start moving, which is the best thing you can do, so if you find yourself stressed and freezing, just go dance around the room for a moment, right? Get up from the desk, do something different physically. Right? But then comes the second part where it's like, oh shit, this feels bad, I'm gonna run. Right? Get away from this. Right? And whether it's trying to find a new job, or a new boyfriend, or get drunk, whatever your way from getting away is. Right? But there's a way to flee this situation. And there it's important to just dig in, to just say, I'm feeling like shit right now. Okay, that's what's happening. All right. Getting comfortable with discomfort is one of the key things in life. Right? I remember like the first time I went to India, and it was just like hot and loud and noisy and stinky and everything all at the same time. Right? Have anybody been here in India? A couple of people, yeah. Then you know what I'm talking about, right? It's like you get off the airplane, it's just like loud and this, and you walk down the street and it smells like curry, then it smells like incense, and it smells like human feces, then it's like, what the hell is going on? Well, it's like pummeling for your system. Right? But you just say, okay, you know what? I'm uncomfortable right now. That's just what it is. I'm hot and I'm sweaty and it's cold. And then you can discover the treasures beyond that. Right? So it's important when you have a bad emotion to sit with it, to dig in and allow it to be there. Right? Because every emotion is meant to put us in motion, is meant to teach us something. And what happens, of course, is when we feel bad, we make up stories around whose fault it is. Right? The Germans are particularly good at that. They're like, wessen Schuld ist das? Right? Somebody has to be guilty for this. Right? And it's the fight part. Right? Today we don't necessarily hit each other over, some idiots still do that, but hit each other with, head with sticks or rockets or something. But it's that fighting. It's like, it's your fault. You did this to me, or they did this to me, or the capitalists, or the Illuminati, or my boss, or someone, or my partner, right? It's like somebody else's fault. Or, of course, yours, right? Oh, I'm stupid, I'm shitty, I'm not good enough, I never do these things right. Right? Depending on your predisposition, you either blame other people or yourself. Right? And that's, of course, in that moment, it's important to gain new perspective. Coming back to that ARO thing, the awareness, responsibility, ownership, when you're finding yourself fighting, blaming others or yourself, to go, what other perspectives can I take here? How can I take responsibility for this so that I'm not a victim of the situation, but I'm actually in charge again? And then I can go into this last part, the fawn part, and fawn, sometimes it's also called feigned. It's a response of like, do with me whatever you want to, I hope this is over soon. right? Oh, honey, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Just tell me what to do to make this end, right? To make this stop. Right? And sometimes it's all the way to fainting. Right? And some women here might have had the opiate response that happens when you're actually being raped. That's also happening here. Right? It's like that whole just complete surrender and going into dead mode and getting a bunch of opiates in your system so you don't even remember what happened afterwards because it was so traumatic. Right? But that's important in that moment to say, who do I want to be? Right? Who do I choose to be? Right? So we'll make a little experiment. If you go back and go back to closing your eyes for a moment and think back to an experience that was sad or frustrating or hurt you. Don't go too deep. You don't want to resolve deep trauma here right now. For a later date, you can go deeper. But think of an experience that sucked, like something that was ouchy, and something that didn't feel good. And as you do that, you're probably starting to feel a little bit like that. Right? You're starting to feel that same experience again, whether it's hurt or grief or sadness or shame, frustration, right? Going right back there. And it's an interesting thing that we tend to remember bad things in first person. Right? As soon as we remember something bad, we're right back into that moment. So if you're feeling this right now, take a moment and try and zoom out, like we did at the beginning. Zoom out above the situation. So zoom out of being you in the situation and just see the situation from the outside, as it was happening to another person. And see how it really shifts how you feel, simply by imagining it in third person. This happened to that person, not to me. And now take a good experience and think of something where maybe you got a reward, or someone applauded you, or appreciated you. And think of a situation that was, where you were the star of a show. And some things were good. And you might notice that it's much easier to experience that in third person versus in first person. Right? So go back to that experience of feeling good and actually allow yourself to be in this position for a moment. To imagine someone is like praising you or telling you how beautiful you are, how awesome you are, how smart you are, right? Giving you recognition. And actually allowing yourself to feel how good that feels. And take that with you as you open your eyes again and come back in the room. Interesting, right? That first person experience, like these bad things, it's like, right back there, right? And it's because we store it that way. It's much easier from our cognition to store things that way, because if we stored all the good experiences, we would have a lot of storage that was needed. Right? And so it's much, much easier to store those bad moments. We're like, that bring us right back there. Right? But that's important when we recognize our own stress response kicking in, to be like, hey, what's going on? Right? Do I want to feel this way? Probably not. Right? This is why morning rituals are so important. Right? If you do a morning ritual where you activate your body and you maybe do some gratefulness exercise or something, what you're also doing is you're setting a set point for the day. You're saying, hey, today I'm going to feel good. So I'm going to allow myself to feel good today. So these are all, of course, related to our first 4 circuits here as well. And by the way, talking about circuits, Mariana here is an expert on this whole 8 circuit system too. So if you want to know more about the 8 circuits and Timmy Fileri and Antero Ali's work, she's a good one to talk to. I forgot to mention that earlier. But yeah, so one thing, when we go from the physical to emotional, the next level is our discernment, right? Our solar plexus. It's where the sun gods live, Ra and Apollo and all those guys, right? And it's about distinction, right? And conscious distinction. And making distinctions between this is a chair and this is a bottle and this is a phone, right? And learning how to make distinctions. And in the opening ceremony, I thought it was very beautiful. They talked about dualism, right? And the duality of life, and yin, yang, and Tao, right? How we have these dualities in life. And duality seems to be a feature of nature, but it's meant to move us forward. Right? And so it's important to become that third discerning aspect that can actually see both, right? Because otherwise we get stuck into either I'm right or the other person is right. Right? And if the other person is right, then I must be wrong. And if I'm wrong, that can't be. So all my defense mechanisms are going to kick in. Right? But a rational perspective is to say, okay, I have a perspective, you have a perspective, I can see both of them. Right? To up-level ourselves and be discerning and clear. So we can then make proper agreements with people around us, right? Because, this was another one. If you guys suffer from the same thing that I suffer from, which is too much thinking sometimes, right? The average human thinks between 12 and 70,000 thoughts a day, and it's really hard to measure, so the research is kind of whatever, right? Because like, I just had a thought, I just had a thought, I just had a thought, right? It's a little hard to measure, but like 12 to 70,000 thoughts on average, and the majority of them is repetitive and self-defeating. Well, it's like that, I wish I had said that at a meeting. I could have said that to the guy. I could have answered this way. I could have done that better, right? Or you keep going into the future, and this could happen, and that could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. And it's like repetitive loop, right? And so thinking is actually not that helpful unless you choose to think, right? And so here again, it comes back to owning your interfaces and thinking the thoughts that actually you want to think, right? Think your thoughts, don't let your thoughts think your thoughts, as a friend of mine once put it, right? Or master in Zen, they talk about how you want to be the master of your thoughts, not the slave. And if you have the same problem I have with too much thinking, one thing that I learned from a shaman was really helpful was this very simple sentence of, I'm the one inhaling, I'm the one exhaling. And when you say that in your head out loud while you do it, let's try that for a second, okay? I'm the one inhaling, I'm the one exhaling. I'm the one inhaling, I'm the one exhaling. I'm the one inhaling, I'm the one exhaling. You know something? You can't think anything else, right? When you think that. So it's a very simple tool, and it's the same as with mantras, right? When you do Om Mani Padme Om, Om Mani Padme Om, Om Mani Padme Om, Om Mani Padme Om, you're doing that so you don't think anything else, right? So it's a very simple way to calm down your mind. 5 minutes, cool. 10, 10, awesome, cool. Sweet, and we can make it for all the circuits, I think. All right. So third chakra, right? Mental. Learning how to control your thoughts, right? So that you don't think, I'm not worthy, I'm shitty, I'm fucked up, I should have done this differently all day long, right? But you actually have thoughts in your head that help you solve the problems at hand and help you create what you want to create, right? The next levels are relationships, right? And you just had a moment of relating to someone, which was a little bit stressful maybe, right? Looking someone in the eye, a stranger in particular, right? But this is where we start, right? With relating to each other, right? With I and other, right? Because if you think about your core experiences, core relationships, there's I, and then there's I and I, right? Your relationship with yourself, with your genius, your higher self, your holy guardian angel, whatever you want to call it, right? There's that relationship you have. And then you have relationship to others, right? And other things, in Latin is res alles, is reality. And depending on your distinctions and those associations that you have with your distinctions, you perceive reality differently, right? But then you make agreements with people, and agreements about connects us with people, right? And it actually gives us some solidity. Like for 5 years I was living without a home, and the only thing that gave me stability was the agreements I had with people. When I said, hey, I'm going to be there tomorrow at 2, and I was actually there at 2, that gave me a sense of stability for my own life. Right? I'm a bit of a stickler for time, not because I'm German, but because, A, I don't want to make anybody wait, right? Because I consider there's a lack of respect, and saying my time is more important than yours if I make them wait for me. But mostly because if I say I'm going to do something, I want to do it, so that I can tell myself I'm in integrity for myself. Right? And this is that first part, right? In terms of connecting with yourself, it's all about your integrity, right? What are all the things that you've broken with yourself already? Right? I just broke another agreement with myself because I quit smoking this summer for 2 months, and I just fell back off the wagon a couple of weeks ago. It was an agreement with myself that I get to clean up now, right? Because it's a broken agreement that I've had with myself. And in the Jewish tradition, there's Yom Kippur, which we just passed a while ago, just before this bullshit happened down there. And Yom Kippur is about forgiving yourself. So once a year, you lament all the things you did wrong, and then you get a clean slate and you get it on. Right? So take a moment and think about some agreements that you have broken with yourself, maybe, that you can let go of, right? Because it's done. Right? You can do something about it if you want to, but don't carry that. Right? Because otherwise you keep carrying these broken agreements, and you're pissing away your own power because you constantly tell yourself, I'm not reliable. Right? And then to the outside world, we have these agreements with other people, right? With our partners, family, friends, community, nature, God, whatever, right? Those other things. And that's the accountability. Can people rely on you? Right? And when you're always late, people don't think that you're reliable. Right? And when you say you do things and you don't do them, those relationships go sour eventually because people are like, I don't know what's there, it's sand. Right? I don't know, there's no stability in our relationship without fulfilled agreements. And trust and intimacy come from shared vulnerability and fulfilled agreements. Right? If I can be vulnerable with you, if I can be like, hey, this is what I got, right? And I make sure that I fulfill my agreements with you, then we can actually create some solidity in our bond. And the more I have that, the deeper that bond gets, and then we can really have some deep relationship with people. In that, it's about our self-expression, right? And put censored there because we all tend to censor ourselves a lot. Right? If I think about, I have a freak side, I'm a multiple Scorpio, and there's some really, really horrible, horrible dark humor that I have in my head that doesn't normally come out in front of people. My friends invented this concept of disturb buffer for me because they're like, Philip, disturb buffer, when they go too often to like horrible humor jokes, right? But it's like, okay, finding your appropriate self-expression, right? What am I afraid of in terms of expressing myself? That people are going to think I'm stupid, or I'm silly, or I'm a pervert, or I'm sick, or whatever, right? And that holds a lot of us back in our own self-expression, whether it's in our own sexuality, whether it's in our clothing styles, whether it's in our whatever it is that we choose, right? Because we normally look silly. So let's look silly for a moment before we have a few minutes. Yeah, cool. Let's go look silly for a moment and make faces. So another good thing to do is face yoga. So let's just try and make the stupidest faces we can for just a second. Right? Nobody's looking. They're all concerned with their own stupid faces. Felt good, didn't it? And I do that in the morning when I brush my teeth to just stretch out my face. That's why I have so few wrinkles. Secret of youth, you know. But seriously, you know, I keep moving it. So funny that people like put Botox in their face and like not move their face, and then they get stuck there eventually, and they're just gonna have that face. It's always gonna look like that. When you really see old German people walking down the street, oh, this is my alarm saying, shut the fuck up soon. Okay, cool. When you see old German people walk around the street, they're all just like, and they're stuck in these faces, you know, because they've had these faces for years. You know what I mean? So keep moving that, right? And it felt fun, right? It was fun to be silly for a moment. And so to allow yourself to be silly and be an idiot sometimes. You know, I mean, but one of the things I like about public speaking is I get to make an idiot of myself all the time. Right? And I get to tell people, I'm like, hey man, I'm just doing my job here, and you know, right? But I get to play a bit of the court jester, right? And especially in the corporate world, and that's why I work there, because wherever it's darkest, it's where the light is needed most, and most people spend their time there, right? And so I try and get them to make silly faces so that they can also be a little bit more human and create more human solutions again too. And so when you think about what we kind of did today already, a little bit, right? You imagine who you could be, who you could become, right? And we actually looked at body too, and think about who your body could become and what's the next step there, right? Who you could feel, what you could feel like, right? Feeling great, feeling safe, right? And psychological safety became really popular in the last couple of years. It's an inside job, right? First of all, you have to create that for yourself, right? It's nice to be in psychologically safe environments, but you can be safe anywhere in the world if you choose to, right? If you choose to calm down your emotions. Ooh, deep breaths, right? And then we talked about mind a little bit and being rational and understanding that everything, there's all kinds of distinctions, right? But what would you be thinking if you were your best self? What would be the thoughts that you would have in your head every day, right? What would be the kind of relationships you'd have in your life and the agreements that you have with other people? And what would be your self-expression, right? And really imagining that for a moment. And really feeling that, right? Allowing yourself to already be a little bit of that person. Right? Because as soon as you imagine, who would I have to be? And this is a secret to anxiety. If you feel anxious, it just means that whatever the situation requires and who you are is incongruent. And now you can do two things. You can either say, oh shit, I'm not good enough, I don't know enough, and blah, 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 blah. You go down that rabbit hole of self-defeating bullshit, right? All the way to the point where you don't even want to be here. Right? And I've had months of my life where I didn't give myself a reason to be alive every day. Right? And it's easy to get there. Or you can, in that moment, go, okay, I'm feeling anxious right now. Who do I have to be not to feel anxious? Right? And if you just ask yourself that question in that moment, you become a little bit more of that person. Right? Kierkegaard said that anxiety is a dizziness of freedom. Right? And so to keep stepping up, stepping back into your vision, right? That's the will part of magic, right? Of doing that. And so what will you create? Right? What is it that you want to create in the world? And what does it mean for you and who you want to be? Right? And first and foremost, actually, we'll have 2 minutes, right? Okay, cool. So, yeah. Take that moment, we'll anchor this real quick. So take that moment of just like feeling really good about yourself, right? Of like really feeling this like, I'm the shit, I can do this, right? There's this next iteration of yourself that you're aspiring to, right? And when you're ready, touch any part of your body. This is from NLP called anchoring, right? You can use your fingers for that, or you can use your knees or your nose, touch your ears, whatever works for you. So we're going to do in a moment, we're going to really, really feel that, and then say a word. I like to use silly words like cheesecake, you know, a pineapple, right? And then touch that part of your body, okay? So we're going to repeat that a couple of times. So really kind of imagine you're in this person, you are this person already, it's feeling really fucking great, you're like top of your creation right now, all right? So really feel that self, make yourself feel it all the way until your butthole starts puckering, right? And you're like, wee, I'm so excited, right? Like really excited, really excited, really excited. And when you're ready, go touch something and say cheesecake or something. All right, cool. All right, and then go back to like feeling it again, really feel into it, like, oh, I'm already feeling it, I'm totally that person, right? Feel that excitement. When you really kind of feel it, go touch yourself and go, cheesecake. All right, we'll do it one more time. I love the laughter in there, that's perfect, right? Okay, so one more time, really like feel it, feel it, feel it. You're already that person. You don't even have to do anything anymore. You're already it. Right? How great that feels, how proud you feel of yourself, how excited you feel. Right? When you're really feeling it and your heart's fluttering, go, cheesecake. All right, awesome. So next time you feel shitty about yourself, go, cheesecake. Right? And you'll go back to this silly moment and you'll remember this, right? And this is that little trick of shifting our states consciously. In that, be really kind to yourself, right? Being an individual is fucking tough. Right? And especially, like I think Emerson said it, when in a world, being yourself in a world where everybody's trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. So good job for being individuals, good job for being on the path of magic. Right? This is your legacy here, Spaceship Earth. Right? And Marshall McLuhan said there's no passengers on Spaceship Earth. There's only crew. Right? And we're all crew. Right? And so you get to be crew, be samples of what it means to be self-transforming individuals. Right? Live out there, share yourself with others. We have a whole lot of people to reach who are still stuck on this emotional level of like, not like, red state, blue state, good people, bad people bullshit. Right? I mean, we're fighting each other right now, spending millions of dollars and billions of dollars for that crap. So we need people like you. So you're the heroes of the future. Thank you very much for your attention. And, you know, this is your legacy. There you go. There we go. One more. Oh, no. To it. There we go. All right, this is your legacy. Leave it behind, make it a better place. And thank you so much for your attention. If you want to get in touch, I'm around for the rest of the conference and easily available and happy to share the slides as well. So just let me know. Thank you so much for your attention.